keep going any longer. I reached my limit long ago. My bones are worn from walking this endless tomb in search of the invisible. Why do I keep getting lost in the nothingness? Time has slipped between my fingers like sand. And yet I am still incomplete.
Plastiboo in Godhusk has imagined a world in the vein of H.R. Geiger and Tsutomu Nihei, a biotech landscape where the human form is perverted into various machinations, forms of unlife that cross the boundaries of man and machine and meld them into one, producing an effect that is quintessentially horror. Even its cover conveys this, displaying the form of something, and on first impressions you're not quite sure what it is. Is this an eye, a nose, a mouth? It's hard to tell. Covered in pipes and valves and pseudo veins and arteries, what we are looking at is inhuman, a monstrous concatenation of man and machine. The foundations of this world are built on this unsettling effect and steeped in biblical and mythological allusion. Allusion, not illusion. If this is the first time you have heard of Godhusk, then I am glad to be the one to introduce you to it. Godhusk Rebirth is a lore gamebook, essentially a guide to a game that doesn't exist. And through this avant-garde form of artbook media, Plastiboo shares with us the deep and seemingly impenetrable lore of the world of Godhusk, as if it were a game we could play. The game itself appearing to be a 2D side-scroller. Being a game guide, it draws its inspiration from not only the biopunk artwork of Geiger and Nihei, but also the haunting biopunk horror of some video games. Of course, without direct confirmation, we can't say for sure exactly which works were direct influences, but the correlations in the works speak for themselves. I just used the term biopunk to describe the following works, as well as Godhusk itself, so it's a good idea to define our terms. Biopunk essentially is a cyberpunk adjacent genre, which, like cyberpunk, examines technology in dystopian futures, with its low-life, high-tech setting. But cyberpunk has a very distinct look and feel, and when we mention it, it almost certainly brings to mind an unmistakable image. Neon-lighted slums with the hum of futuristic engines and the obligatory patter of rain. Labeling, for example, Blam as cyberpunk would technically be correct, but some key differences make a distinction necessary, as the immense connotations of a cyberpunk world are completely disregarded in such a work, and so it would be inaccurate to describe it as such. And Godhusk makes even more leaps and bounds away from these cyberpunk connotations, leading us to consider this even more. Cyberpunk examines the effect of hypertechnology in an increasingly corporate world, leading, usually, to dystopian landscapes. But biopunk places more emphasis on the biotech, the organic, and also, crucially, skirts the pesky cyberpunk impression that you have in your mind right now. Biopunk, though more accurate, may also not completely describe Godhusk. But genres are not perfect, and the breaking of conventions is what leads to immense advancements in art, making new works that build on and progress the works they are influenced by. Biopunk portrays itself as a more biotech-centric cyberpunk setting, but in practicality it has, I think, more to do with the removal of an urban setting and into a more horror-centric context, with the aforementioned melding of organic matter and technology, leading to strange and unnerving creations. The works of H.R. Geiger epitomize this effect, particularly with his most famous work, Necronom 4, which was later adapted into Alien by Ridley Scott. Nihei, who also produced a masterwork of biopunk in Blam, comes to mind immediately. Nihei himself took inspiration from the mammoth work Akira, and especially, I think, from Tetsuo's grotesque mutations, one of the most famous visuals in animation. When it comes to video game influences, I have a couple in mind. The first being Darkseid. You might understand why when you see the MS-DOS cover art. It features Geiger's 1994 painting, Lee 2. Geiger was brought on and asked to provide some of his artwork for the game. Cyberdreams, the developers behind Darkseid, took influence from Geiger's art style and incorporated it into a psychological horror point-and-click adventure game. The next of these video game influences is Soma. Soma is a 2015 survival horror developed by Frictional Games. Again, a horror work, and again, these same biopunk aesthetics, which are used in Soma to ask deep philosophical questions of consciousness and humanity. Lastly, I have to mention Scorn, a 2022 survival horror game developed by Ebb Software. Another Geigeresque visual feast littered with biomechanical horrors. These works share many similarities, and not just in art style. They all include apocalyptic worlds where the player is slowly gaining their bearing. They are all horror and use this biopunk aesthetic to create an unsettling atmosphere that is, like cyberpunk, unmistakable. Godhusk deals not just in biopunk, but also draws immensely from mythos and biblical tradition. Godhusk deals in gods and angels, Adam and Eve, arcs, and oracles. I have read this book almost a dozen times, and with each pass through, puzzled over many a passage, trying so desperately to glean something implicit in the text, correlating Bible passages and beings from mythos to harvest some deeper meaning. Not all of these searches have been fruitful, but regardless, I am here to share with you what I have found and my journey through this wonderful and wicked world. One last word before we begin. Godhusk is confusing and almost labyrinthine. I will try my best to follow the book chronologically, but I will explain anything that requires explaining with future information provided in the book. This will make the video much less confusing and will remove the necessary back and forth cross-referencing you'd need to do while reading it. Now, get your snacks and drinks ready, because this is a long one. I hope you enjoy, and thanks for watching.
I am scared. I am too weak. I cannot keep going any longer. I reached my limit long ago. My bones are worn from walking this endless tomb in search of the invisible. Why do I keep getting lost in the nothingness? Time has slipped between my fingers like sand. And yet I am still incomplete. My burden, my last breath, shall be carried by a vessel.
This speech, we assume, is delivered by the character on the first page. This character in the video on Godhusk by Dogma is referred to as the protagonist. To maintain a sense of discourse, I will continue using the same name. In the first couple pages, we begin to see these symbols. The first before the beginning of the book on white background, and the second on some kind of device held by what we assume to be a human hand. These symbols are a persistent puzzle throughout the book, and we'll come back to them later. I will, however, point them out as they appear, and give whatever notes I can on their meaning from the context in which they are shown. The first zone in the game is Nest L609, a vessel nursery complex. A vessel being one of these biomechanical creatures who in the past were made for particular purposes. The player will control the hand, who himself is a vessel. Nests are complexes destined for the mass production of vessels, now long abandoned and inactive. Nest L609 is filled with empty birthing tanks and the rotten pupae of the vessels that became disconnected before completing their formation. The hand can be born if its tank is repeatedly shaken until it opens. A vessel has 4 stages in its development. First, there is the larvae, which is the primal form of all vessels. During this stage, the anatomy of the vessel, life system, mind cell, and limbs slowly grows inside it. It will eventually emerge so the vessel can serve its purpose. In the next stage, protovessel, the unit unfolds its primary extremities and quickly learns basic movement. The vessel drags the lower half of its body until the next developmental stage, which is named explorer. The unit in this stage reshapes its first limbs, facilitating mobility and exploration. The vessel can now attack by using its umbilical cord as a whip. And lastly, in the final stage, we have a fully developed vessel, the living machine. The vessels were synthetic bodies created to perform specific functions. Currently, the vessels' original purposes have been forgotten. Most of them have developed their own behaviors and can freely modify their bodies. Inside the vessel, there is a life system and a mind cell. The mind cell can carry mind units. There are 2 types of mind units, mem units and INF units. INF units are relatively common. They can be used to learn information and as currency. Mem units are far more rare and valuable. They contain a memory from a unique individual. All units are stored in the hand's mind cell and can be accessed at any time. A vessel on rare occasions may contain a spirit, which is a mind that has lived through several bodies and contains memories. Once the hand is fully developed, it will gain access to the operator. The operator displays the hand's life system. Each time the hand is damaged, blood bulbs are drained from it. Blood bulbs may be added to essentially gain more health, but the hand begins his journey with 3 blood bulbs. The next zone we discover is Magnetic Garden, a vast accumulation of waste and scraps that covers nest L609. Once the hand has exited the nest, an avalanche of debris will instantly bury it, making it inaccessible. Magnetic Garden is an area where the hand can freely explore and experiment with its newly acquired functions without much of a threat. The first creature shown in the book is Living Hole, with this symbol on its portrait. Living Hole can be found in a hidden room outside the initial area in Nest. In order to access the hidden room, the hand must use a specific weapon, O14. We later learn this weapon is named Unmaker, and we are given an image of it. It is used not only to get into this hidden room, but also a couple other unreachable spaces in the game. We are not given a direct way to find Unmaker, so it's likely either found in egg chests, which may contain important items such as weapons and limbs, which the hand may attach to itself, or also mind units. Another way we might find Unmaker is via NPCs, the first of whom I will detail next. The hidden room where Living Hole is located is pitch dark. If the hand waits outside for long enough, Living Hole will eventually crawl out of the room. Living Hole is harmless. It will play dead whenever the hand is nearby. Once freed from its prison, Living Hole will start to slowly crawl around. It can be encountered multiple times throughout the journey, following the hand's path. Even if Living Hole is killed, its corpse can still be interacted with, though it will remain in place. Next we have Nia 7, a stationary merchant vessel. The first time the hand encounters Nia 7, she will be hiding inside her storage box. If the hand remains still for a few seconds, Nia 7 will emerge from the container. During their first interaction, Nia 7 allows the hand to exchange its original limbs for one of its choice from Nia 7's stock. The exchanged limbs will later be up for sale at Nia 7's store. Nia 7 cannot speak, but she can offer the hand a selection of limbs, weapons, and headpieces in exchange for bile, which is a valuable substance found in vessels and organisms. Bile is present in every living organism and vessel. White bile is a low viscosity oil, only present in vessels and biomachinery. It's necessary for the hand's motion system. Lack of bile will lead to a loss of motion. Red bile is present in all Cytean life forms. We will see more Cytean life later in the book, but they're essentially these plant-like organisms. Red bile is compatible with the hand's bile valve and may be consumed or traded. White bile may be collected from vessel remains, bile cans, or pseudo-vessels, whereas red bile may be collected from organisms such as death cones, whole abiotals, stone mothers, crustborns, steins, and crust tumors. On the page following the description of bile, we have what we assume to be Nia 7's inventory. It does not include Unmaker, but there are several other choices of limbs and weapons. Child of Waste is a hostile pseudo-vessel that feeds on the world's waste. Child of Waste becomes more aggressive as it matures, the adult form being the most dangerous one. When Child of Waste adult attacks the hand, it may deposit eggs in the hand's storage. If eggs remain in the hand's storage for long enough, they will hatch. Child of Waste larva will start devouring the inventory as soon as it hatches. Rust feeders are automatic biomechanisms that wander around Magnetic Garden, consuming all corrosion in their way. Rust feeder is not hostile and can be ridden if the hand jumps on its back. Scups are vessels that bury their bodies in the floor using their acidic tentacles to dig through the metal, leaving their false faces exposed on the surface. If the hand attacks Scup's peeking blood bulb, Scup will quickly retract it and then attack the hand. There is a small chance of finding Scup's true face exposed on the floor. Scup will behave in a similar manner, but it will be more aggressive and unable to hide its blood bulb. Pea spores are pseudo-vessels that float around searching for polyp particles in the air. When pea spore detects an impurity or a foreign chemical, it opens its membranes, releasing a harmful purifying agent. Next to the image of a pea spore, we have a diagram displaying a vessel state. A reference of vessel states is shown much later in the book, and we see that the image shown is for corroded. We can assume that the purifying agent would corrode the hand's body. Scavengers are small pseudo-vessels that move in packs, hunting for pieces to attach to themselves. Scavenger can be encountered clad in all sorts of gear. It can attack the hand if it is equipped with weapons or limbs. Scavenger is also able to emit vocal sounds while equipped with a headpiece. Brainborer has 3 stages to its battle. The first and second phase have the same mechanics. Brainborer shoots waves of psychic projectiles and summons scavenger packs. The only difference between phase 1 and 2 is that Brainborer loses a piece of its faceplate, signifying how much damage it has sustained to the player. In phase 3, flesh spikes burst out of the floor as he violently attacks with everything at his disposal. There is also a secret phase. If the hand did not suffer any damage during the fight, Brainborer will form a hostile copy of the hand with better attributes. Once Brainborer is defeated, a mem unit can be subtracted from Brainborer's corpse. When a vessel is destroyed, a large majority of the data of its mind units becomes corrupted, essentially making it impossible to read. Corrupted mind units and pieces can still be traded, but they lose most of their value. Corrupted pieces can present a danger if they are equipped. With this information given, we assume that the only use for Brainborer's mem unit is as currency. But along with this description, we have a mem unit titled Reflections of a Battle Vessel. My assumption is that this mem unit is altogether different from the mem unit collected from Brainborer's corpse, as that mem unit should be corrupted. But I'm not entirely certain, and I could be mistaken.
This feeble body keeps falling apart. I was designed to expire, but I keep fighting against my very nature. I will raise, I will become something greater. I will make a majestic incarnation out of this purposely flawed shell.
The next zone is the flooded repair center. The hand can access flooded repair center through an outlet pipe partially hidden underwater in the residual lake at Magnetic Garden. This area has remained inaccessible since its collapse. The vessels that dwelt in here have either rotted away or adapted to their new environment. Water does not present a serious threat to a modern vessel, but long exposure to it can cause damage to its mind cell, making the vessel act abnormally. Mutated vessels have been consuming the resources of the original repair complex to keep themselves active, and have been preying on other vessels for bile and body modifications. Some of these mutated vessels have become water dependent. This is Sabbath Gok, the eternal persecutor, a vessel of high intelligence and overwhelming strength, committed to the destruction of any bearer of forbidden data. I'm not entirely certain what this forbidden data is. The hand will be alerted of the presence of Sabbath Gok by a loud shriek. Then Sabbath Gok will start chasing it. If Sabbath Gok catches his prey, he will destroy it. Due to his large size, Sabbath Gok cannot chase the hand through some doors. In order to escape from Sabbath Gok, the hand can drop a piece to distract Sabbath Gok for a few seconds, then go through certain doors, or use a hiding spot. Wet Lung is a mutated aquatic vessel that stalks from a safe distance. If the hand turns its back on Wet Lung, it will slowly approach the hand until it is within its reach. Wet Lung can occasionally drop its head or lung after being defeated. Tulp are common vessels that get easily attached to other non-hostile vessels due to their friendly and helpful nature. If the hand enters combat in the company of Tulp, it will fight the enemy to protect the hand. Tulp can also be petted. Devourers are gluttonous vessels capable of consuming pieces and regurgitating projectiles. If the hand gets too close to Devourer, he will tear off one of the hand's pieces and proceed to devour it. Devourer explodes in a powerful blast if he ever runs out of blood bulbs. Devoured pieces, however, can be retrieved from his exploded remains. New Billy is a rare vessel that creeps through the main pipes of flooded repair center. New Billy can be encountered outside and inside the pipes. Within the pipes, New Billy gains a huge advantage, since he can move twice as fast and stretch out his neck to reach the hand in a blink. New Billy retreats into the nearest pipe after losing half of his life system. Next, we have the second boss, Gyne. Gyne is found in the zone Palace, the deepest part of flooded repair center. Palace is a nest that is home to Gyne, a large pseudo-vessel that evolved into a mass-producing organism that populates the entirety of the complex with her spawn. Gyne's offspring have a 4-stage life cycle, similar to the hand. They start as Gyne's jewels, essentially eggs, then become Gyne's newborn when they hatch. They will then grow into Gyne's infant and eventually Gyne's prince. These names keep to the theme of monarchs: palace, jewel, prince. Gyne has 3 phases. In the first, Gyne projects her tongue and throws Gyne's jewel clutch at the hand. Her tongue can snap pieces off and cause serious damage if it manages to drag the hand into her mouth. In the second phase, Gyne's infant peeks out of her cavity, stretching out to attack the hand if it gets too close. A swarm of Gyne's prince appears in response to the mother's cry. In the third and final phase, Gyne expels a horde of Gyne's infant from her thoracic cavity right before collapsing. The next page is titled, Your Many Life Choices. In it is detailed how a vessel's biomechanism can be adapted to different types of environments and tasks by changing the pieces that form it. This allows vessels to reconfigure their bodies to become more efficient. Here are a few different limb orientations, which may each be used in different contexts. Orb of Thought, for example, is just a bunch of heads, clearly meant for thinking, but as it is noted, it is not optimal, as it has no limbs and would quickly be killed as it would be unable to move. Another similar is Wheel, also not optimal, as it is incredibly fast, but is lacking in everything else. There's also Blood Tank, Surface Specialist, Human, and Mobility Expert, each with pros and cons. In this section, there's also mention of Obek, whom we will come back to later. The next zone leading from Palace is Gulk, home of Oracle. The hand can only access Gulk if it is in possession of mind units. Gulk was once a functional information, research, and storage center. Now it is only operated by one vessel that remained in charge despite its deplorable state. Gulk's information management system can be accessed via direct connection. Once plugged into the system, a vessel can choose to disconnect itself from its own body, causing its mind and spirit to abandon this plane of existence. The bodies of many disconnected vessels can be found around Gulk. Inside, we find Oracle, from whom we can buy many items. Oracle later in the book is said to sell the entirety of the Maibo shell, but looking at his inventory, they're not here. Now here's where I want to point out the symbols next to two of the inventory compartments. One which is blood bulbs and shows this symbol, and the other is a key with this symbol. I assume these are representational symbols of the items, and thus gives us a small look into what they could mean. At the bottom of the page is included the text of what's inside the INF unit, which Oracle is selling. It is perhaps Oracle's prophecy handed down to the player.
In the kingdom above, wrapped in robes of vacuous knowledge, the snake hides in plain sight.
This piece of information, I believe, provides us evidence for a hypothesis, which I will introduce when we get to Obek and the angels. The dialogues in Godhusk are where I think lies the key to its secrets. Mogema comes in three different forms: Mogema Spawn, Mother, and Hunter. Mogema are horrid crawling pseudo-vessels capable of moving through walls and ceilings. There is another zone leading from Palace, and that is Nest of Wires. Nest of Wires is a large area that expands widely below 4th layer and can only be traversed through tunnels. The most common vessel forms found throughout Nest of Wires are the worms. Their biology allows them to join their bodies together or split from each other at will. Each unit has its own blood bulb, but a precise strike can trigger a chain reaction that destroys the entire group simultaneously. Worm can be found alone or in groups of 2 to 30 units. There are also Segerfly, which are extremely hostile vessels. Segerfly patrols segments that lead to production plants or birthing tanks. If Segerfly detects a trespasser in an unauthorized area, it will alert nearby hostile pseudo-vessels and proceed to destroy the intruder. Unforgiving orbs are vessels of high coordination. Unforgiving orbs has two main formations. Wall unforgiving orbs can form a wall of 2 to 4 of its kind. These walls are harmful and impenetrable, and Maw unforgiving orbs morphs into a hideous face and becomes incredibly violent when encountered alone. Some items you may find laying around in Godhusk are the aforementioned egg chests, as well as time capsules and keys. Time capsules are ancient chests found throughout the world. Unopened time capsules contain items from the past. Keys are small spheres made of different materials. They are used to open regular doors and time capsules. Some time capsules are the hiding spot of predatory pseudo-vessels that patiently wait for an unsuspecting victim to open them. These creatures can be forced out by shooting their capsules repeatedly until they overheat. Keys used on infested capsules are not lost. Now we get to Obek, the artificial god. A giant anthill mass of wires and pipes and machinery, reminding me of Akira's cryogenic containment cell. Obek, also called the Supreme Engineer, can be accessed via a hidden passage in nest of wires. Obek, when operational, was powered by 7 beings capable of supplying infinite energy. They were known as angels. You can see their pods littered around Obek. At some point, when the second angel suddenly vanished, Obek's influence faded away and the world began to fall apart. The world has long since remained in a state of stagnation. The vessels were not able to find a solution and eventually lost their minds in an endless hunt for the guilty. When a vessel was born in the past, Obek's system was connected to the pod and provided information in the form of amniotic fluid. This process shapes the vessel into a form suited for its primary purpose. Essentially, Obek was the creator of the vessels, thus their god. Obek became disconnected at some point in the past, when the second angel left. We get a lot more information about this later in the book, and I will expound on this when I start to theorize and make connections. As those are simply my own thoughts and explorations, for now I'll only state what's explicitly given to us in the text. This is where things get a little complicated, and there's a lot of jumping around. Now there are 7 endings in Godhusk, and 2 of them take place in this room. The Husk and Martyr endings. For both of these endings, the hand must be equipped with 5 pieces: AP208, H113, A201, M411, and S466. I will highlight these pieces as we find them throughout the book. As of yet, we haven't been shown any. When the hand wears all 5 pieces, one of the pods surrounding Obek will open, presumably the one which used to house the second angel. If the hand enters, then that will mark the end of the journey, Husk. However, if before entering, the hand drinks the red communion, then the ending will be Martyr. We'll talk about the red communion later when it comes up. The next zone is behind a locked passageway in the nest of wires depths. It is a colossal memorial named Pillar of Mercy. At the end of a gangway, a control panel can be found. The hand can activate it with a special key. Using the control panel, the pillar's segments can be rotated, switching the facial features of its statues. Assembling the correct visage opens a passage into the megastructure. The correct visage is said to be found in the zone Hideout, from which I believe this is the visage it's talking about. A monumental funerary figure rests in the interior of the pillar, wrapped by a spiral staircase that leads to nowhere. A distant humming sound can be heard from within it. When the hand reaches the top of the stairs, it will be able to retrieve a rare limb, A201, from one of the statue's nostrils. Once obtained, the humming will abruptly stop. This is the first of the pieces required of the 5. The acrylic pool is the next zone. An accumulation of chemical and synthetic waste gave birth to this large body of liquid. Ancestor is a living structure located at the shore of acrylic pool. If an item is dropped inside the hole in front of Ancestor, a gush of resin will shower the hand. This coat of resin grants total immunity until it is destroyed, which will take 4 hits. The coat breaks if a piece is removed or changed. If the hand removes all of its pieces before the resin shower, the resin will form a new body around it, the clear vessel. The clear vessel is immune to all harmful substances, but the life system of the hand becomes compromised while wearing it, completely out in the open, meaning it will only take 1 hit. Lovebug is constantly giving birth. If one of Lovebug's children is destroyed, another one will emerge from her back. Lovebug will run away from the hand if her offspring are killed near her. Her offspring are Lovechild, small, underdeveloped forms of Lovebug. Lovechild is hostile and very energetic. Lovebug has a small chance of dropping Love Blaster 043 when killed. The land of chemical abrasion, Hemotil Meadows, can be accessed from Gulk's depths or Nest of Wires. This area has corrosive fumes that can melt the hand's exoskeleton in a matter of seconds. Hemotil emitters can't be destroyed. To prevent long exposure to corrosive fumes, the hand must be equipped with the special pieces 041, 042, 043, 044, and 045, the 5 pieces of the Maibo shell, preventing chemical damage, or the hand must seek shelter in an active P capsule. P capsules were designed to clean and repair vessels that performed maintenance on the hemotil emitters. These vessels were also in charge of alveoli synthetic machines that transformed hemotil into oxygen. Most of the capsules are now out of order. Functional P capsules scan nearby vessels in search of chemical damage. Once a vessel steps inside, the capsule seals up and the repairing process starts. The vessel will be heated and then showered in amniotic fluid containing its original data to repair any external damage. A vessel can be found inside one of the functional P capsules, GPCH, Clergy Machine, a modified vessel with a peculiar ambition. GPCH can reveal a secret location, hideout, to the hand, in exchange for a piece, 015. 015 is a headpiece that can be dropped by a chimera, which are non-hostile vessels that run away at high speeds with erratic movements. 015 grants its wearer the capability of dreaming.
The old iron, the new flesh, the old wires, the new blood, old mothers, new machines. We are sons of the unborn. I want to see what they saw, feel what they felt. Please, grant me access to the invisible world.
The invisible world. That is his ambition, to gain access to the invisible world. Long ago, the oxygen that made the world habitable was being slowly infested with polyp, a unicellular spore-like organism. These particles germinated on contact, creating thin bronze strings that solidified instantly, the result of a frustrated fertilization. Vessels developed a new respiratory system, able to safely breathe air polluted with polyp. All the vessels that used the outdated system eventually collapsed. Within the hemotil meadows, we do have some creatures, such as peeled vessels, highly damaged vessels that have survived the exposure to the corrosive fumes. They have made the meadows their hunting grounds. The corrosion has melded their biomechanisms, life systems, and mind cells into a single purulent mass. Peeled vessel has incredibly high energy and an insatiable hunger for bile, even though it does not have any effect on its system anymore. Living fume also exists, dense clouds of hemotil that move with a will of their own. They can be dispersed by shooting at them repeatedly. Living fume is one of the many anomalies created by the mix of hemotil and polyp. The hemotil emitters were designed by Obek to fight polyp contamination. The corrosive fumes drastically reduced the amount of spores in the air for a long time, but when Obek shut down, the fumes quickly spread out of control. Du Xian Qin are immovable rotting vessels. Dushanqin has a nest-like structure made of soft tissue and a large appendage that ejects to quickly grab the nearest vessel. These creatures used to be ordinary vessels, but they suffered a malfunction that caused their bodies to collapse, and, over time, rot into a mass of synthetic flesh, while their minds remained alive. If Dushanqin grabs the hand, it will try to insert its mind cell into the hand's body. Finally, we reach the surface of the planet, the first layer, known as outer crust. Outer crust is the vastest area of the world and is completely uninhabitable for most vessels. What resides out here is mostly Cytean life, which are polyp-based organisms that grow naturally in outer crust. To safely traverse outer crust, the hand must be equipped with an insulating body, or constantly seeking shelter in the shade. Being directly exposed to the scorching heat of outer crust can cause the hand to overheat, which can melt its body in a matter of seconds. Being overheated accelerates the hand's movements until its eventual meltdown. The Cytean life includes rambling crust, tiny non-hostile Cytean organisms that move in formation. Consuming one of them refills one blood bulb. Oozer are advanced cysts that wander freely throughout outer crust, leaving a slippery slime trail behind. When threatened, Oozer shoots out rolling projectiles that explode on contact. This covers the hand with an ooze that hardens almost instantly. We then have the massive Red Father, enormous Pacific Cyteas that wander endlessly around outer crust at a very slow pace. They provide shade to smaller life forms. Red Walkers are aggressive Cytean life forms of great resistance. Red Walker spends most of its time in the shade, normally in caves, tunnels, or under Red Father. Its thick skin protects it from most regular attacks, so its mouth is usually its only vulnerable spot. Red Walker can bite and emit a piercing sound that can stun the hand. Red Walker is hostile towards almost all organisms, including its own kind. When roaming through the vastness of outer crust, the hand may come across Red Dome. Red Dome is the home of Sage V2, a vessel committed to the preservation of the crust. Sage V2 has a small supply of materials and information. Red Dome is surrounded by small, non-violent Cyteas. Multiple refrigerant ponds can be found just outside Red Dome. These pools provide immunity against the heat for a short period. If the hand destroys Sage V2, an INF unit, New Beginning, and the iron brick can be obtained by looting his corpse. We'll come back to the iron brick later, as we'll need it to access Hideout. The organisms outside Red Dome will attack the hand when it leaves the building after killing Sage V2. There is a lot to unpack here, but I'll be doing all the theorizing after we cover all the lore. Getting back to the outer crust, we have crust cells. These Cytean organisms are commonly found throughout outer crust, but can also be seen in the uppermost layers. They can be easily destroyed. Areas covered with them tend to have a richer biodiversity. Despite their appearance, they are capable of movement, since their bottom appendages allow them to crawl slowly. They are rarely seen in motion. These Cytean organisms are commonly found throughout outer crust, but can also be seen in the uppermost layers. Crust nodule takes care of crust cell, helping it propagate and protecting it from possible threats.
Progress is what we call this ever-growing curse upon our kin. We lost our flesh, then our thoughts, and now our souls are rotting away inside these shells. We stole the divine beings and called it a gift from heaven. Centuries of evolution feasting upon our abominable acts. We must force the birth of a new era. The salvation of this world can only be achieved by redemption. Free the innocents. Death to Obek.
Next, we come to a very strange part of the world, with umbilical wall. Enormous appendages that transport oxygen to outer crust's underground arterial system. They also prevent other organisms from entering the caverns of outer crust. The hand must find the other end of umbilical wall in order to destroy it and clear the way. Atom 2 are obsolete transportation devices that were commonly used to travel throughout outer crust back when it was habitable. Atom 2 is able to climb vertical surfaces with ease and can even attack with a powerful bite. Atom 2 can explode after receiving too much damage, destroying the hand and everything else around it. Atom 2 will alert the driver before this happens. Atom 2 can be found inside a cave near Red Dome. This next one I'm not entirely certain how to pronounce, so please bear with me. Kib are small cytine organisms that can feed off outer crust surface. Kib can damage, steal, or devour the hand's limbs. They come in many different forms: masked, super, sower, blind, hungry, and king. Masked Kib buries itself in the ground so it cannot be hurt by regular projectiles. Super Kib can easily dismember or drag the hand's body. Sower Kib moves in packs, laying eggs and picking any items in its way. Blind Kib is harmless. It serves as a shield and transportation for smaller organisms. Hungry Kib, Phase 3, can lay eggs in the hand's storage if it manages to sneak into it. If they are not disposed of fast enough, these eggs will hatch and start slowly devouring the hand's inventory. King Kib is very aggressive. It possesses an armor akin to that of masked Kib, but significantly stronger. Its attacks are also far more powerful than those of other members of its species. These creatures live on outer crust, but can also be encountered in layers colonized by crust cell. Crust saints are horrific beings that plague the Far East region of outer crust. Crust saint hides beneath the surface, covering the entrance of its nest with its rock-solid abdomen. It constantly emits a loud buzzing noise that is only interrupted when a nearby presence is detected. If the hand attacks or gets too close to its abdomen, Crust Saint will swiftly crawl out of its hole and attack the hand until it injures it enough to drag it into its nest safely. The hand can avoid Crust Saint by walking slowly whenever it is near its burrow, so as to stay undetected, carefully listening to check if the buzzing stops. Maliciously hidden among the dunes of outer crust, the pitfall of Crust Eater lies beneath a feeble layer of soil. As soon as the hand steps on the trap, the ground will crumble apart, revealing a steep, slippery slope. The hand must cautiously climb up the pitfall to escape. Sprinting will only cause the hand to slide down even faster. Crust Eater is an implacable beast. If it manages to lay its pincers on the hand, it will instantly devour it. If the hand manages to escape from the trap, Crust Eater will hide down in its burrow, waiting for its next victim. Anything hurled into the hole will be consumed by the beast. Hidden under Crust Eater lies a secret path that leads to a cavernous hallway. This corridor connects directly to outer crust's arterial system, granting the hand access to many blocked areas, such as those hidden by umbilical wall. One of the hallway's openings leads to Cardinal Chamber. Only heirs of the Blighted can access Cardinal Chamber. The hand must empty its bile valve of all white bile in order to enter the sacred terrain. Within Cardinal Chamber lies a figure with a red mask. The hand can meditate alongside the resting figure in order to obtain the empty chalice. Submerging the empty chalice into the red liquid fills it to the brim, turning it into the Red Communion. Consuming the Red Communion while being equipped with AP-228, H-113, A-201, M411, and S466, the items mentioned previously, the hand will no longer be a vessel and will lead to the ectasis ending. Hemera 12, God's Eye, the light of hope, is a massive satellite that illuminates the surface of the planet and provides warmth. The lack of maintenance has caused it to emit an excessive amount of heat, partially melting the world's surface and making it uninhabitable for most vessels. Hemera is the primordial goddess of the day in Greek mythology, born from the union of Erebus and Nyx, darkness and night. Our next zone is an important one, containing many NPC characters, which have interesting speeches to give. Rust Town is a major settlement inhabited by vessels that have managed to retain their sense of reason and desire to escape the violence of the world. What distinguishes Rust Town from other ruins is that despite the collapse of Obek and the centuries of abandonment, its weapon-inhibiting signal is still running in Rust Town's core, disarming any threatening force that enters its range. Since most of the vessels living in Rust Town are peaceful and are afraid to leave, they have stopped consuming bile, which has turned their bodies almost immobile. The dwellers of Rust Town are, for the most part, hidden inside the domes or in a catatonic state induced by the lack of bile. The hand can knock on doors to communicate with the sheltered residents. There are 5 residents mentioned: Talib, the coward vessel; Eve, the bile expert; Mog B, the surveyor vessel; M03, the mother vessel; and Broadcaster. Of these 5, only 3 are shown in the book: Talib, the coward vessel, and Mog B, the surveyor vessel, are missing. While in Rust Town, the hand can access multiple facilities, such as shops to acquire supplies for its long journey and healing cabins. Most of the establishments that remain in operation are those that are automatic or have been rebuilt for a new purpose. Butcher is a limb merchant that can be located in a dome near the entrance of Rust Town. The hand can purchase and sell all kinds of limbs here, although those that are broken or corrupted will see their price drastically reduced. If Butcher feels threatened by a weapon the hand is equipped with, it will refuse to open its shop until the weapon is unequipped. The hand can come across a few master pipes before reaching Rust Town, but only here will it encounter a functional one. From this pipe, the hand can learn that the rest can be activated by filling their deposits with bile. The hand can travel between functional master pipes, covering great distances in a matter of minutes through their ducts. Bile deposit can be found in Rust Town's core. In bile deposit, the hand can purchase different types of bile containers and upgrade the capacity of its bile valve. Eve, the bile expert, frequents this facility.
I've noticed that red bile has special properties unique to it. By filling your bile valve with red bile, or a mix of red bile and white bile, you can slightly tweak your body's performance. Red bile, unlike us, those nasty things from outer crust, can distill their own fuel. We will probably run out of it at some point. And they will take over our land and feast on our living carcasses. What a sick joke. I saw what the little creatures do. They create life from nothing, without any command or birthing tank. Do birthing tanks feel love when they give birth to us? Do they feel proud when they see us grow? I surely do. Behold, I made these vessels out of scraps and gave them a part of myself. I am now a life giver, and they, my children. I now understand the creatures. I would give my life for them at any moment too. If you come across any vessel scraps longing for love, bring them to me, and I will give them life.
MO3 will ask the hand to search for lost scraps and bring them to him. Strangely, despite being the mother vessel, he is referred to as a male, with he/him pronouns. More and more newborn vessels will populate the room if the hand keeps providing MO3 with lost scraps. Once the hand delivers enough lost scraps to MO3, he will gift the hand one of his creations. The hand can assign a name up to 6 letters to the newborn unit. BB provides emotional support to the hand, following it closely wherever it goes. When the hand enters combat or danger is present, BB will run away or seek refuge behind the hand. BB has its own life system of 3 blood bulbs. If the hand pays a visit to MO3 while in the company of BB, it will jump to its mother's hands. MO3 will then sing a lullaby, and BB's life system will be restored. If BB is destroyed, the hand can ask MO3 to rebuild it using lost scraps. If the hand destroys BB intentionally, MO3 will not rebuild it. Rust Town's Depths is a tunnel system located below Rust Town, accessible from the inside of a locked dome. Rust Town's Depths is interconnected with other underground areas found at Nest of Wires and Outer Crust. Rust Town's Depths is in complete darkness. A unique archaic vessel that inhabits the shadows. Abyss Walker is quick to escape from all sources of light. He can only be spotted for a fraction of a second. If the hand wishes to communicate with him, it must stay unmoving in pitch darkness and wait for Abyss Walker to approach first. Collector Zig is a mad vessel in a rampage of endless dismembering. He patrols the surroundings of Rust Town's outskirts in search of new pieces to add to his collection. All stolen pieces are kept in his bag and eventually stored in his den, the Trophy Hall. Collector Zig will emit a metallic shriek whenever the hand is in his sights. Collector Zig has a paralyzing flash that leaves the hand disabled for a short period of time. Collector Zig can harm the hand, but will not kill it. His only desire is to rip off all its pieces and put them on display in his collection. Trophy Hall is a secret room south of Rust Town's outskirts, filled with the pridefully displayed trophies of Collector Zig. Trophy Hall can be accessed by using an exoskeleton key or by defeating Collector Zig and stealing his key. Trophy Hall will have on display 7 to 10 random high-value limbs and weapons, alongside unusable ones. Trophy Hall will also contain every non-unique piece that the hand has equipped itself with so far. If the hand wears the clear vessel and offers at least 5 pieces to Collector Zig, he will grant the hand free access to his den. He will not be hostile towards the hand for as long as the clear vessel is equipped. If the hand breaks into Trophy Hall using exoskeleton key, Collector Zig will show up shortly. An exoskeleton key is a rare single-use item that can open any regular locked door. The hand can avoid an encounter by leaving Trophy Hall in time or by hiding. Collector Zig will ruthlessly hunt for the hand if it manages to escape from him. Red House is a sealed sanctuary located on Rust Town's outskirts. Red House can only be accessed by breaking a hole in its ceiling. This is the only way to access the building. To destroy the sealing, the hand must use an unmaker, 014, mentioned previously. Yellow Watchers are hostile Cytean organisms that creep around Red House, leaving a trail of red bile behind. Yellow Watcher can overheat the hand just by staring at it, which can cause a meltdown. To avoid this, the hand must hide from Yellow Watcher's heat gaze, or shoot at its eye. Yellow Watcher can occasionally drop a yellow glare, 027, a heat ray capable of overheating other vessels and pseudo-vessels, though it is inoffensive against Cytea. Yellow glare slowly heats up its user while firing. Within Red House lies Gardener, a harmless vessel created to nurture and sustain Sapioma. They were intentionally left behind when the structure was sealed. Despite their bodies falling apart, they still remain fully operative. Sapioma is the last of its kind, a completely non-artificial life form from another time, kept alive by Gardener. Sapioma is the only organism capable of producing oxygen. A seed can be taken from Sapioma, but merely touching it will end its life. Sapioma has remained on the verge of death for centuries. Sapioma seed can only be planted in living whole. If Sapioma seed is consumed, the hand will grow one blood bulb. On Sapioma's page is this symbol. Sapioma seed needs one tear to start growing. Each one of its following growth stages requires one tear more than the previous one, 15 tears in total. Tears are a clear liquid secreted by organisms and vessels capable of feeling emotions. They are rare to find, and instead of being dropped like regular items, must be collected directly from the source. In order to collect tears, the hand must be carrying a crystal tear. Once its final stage is reached, it will bloom into lastborn Cassio. When this happens, living whole will stop following the hand and head to outer crust instead. Lastborn Cassio can be removed from living whole and stored in the inventory, causing him to enter a profound slumber. The soul of lastborn Cassio, slumber, can be transposed into the primordial vessel, leaving his plant matter behind. Lastborn Cassio, slumber, can also be placed inside Obek's empty pod. It will open if the hand is carrying him. Doing this will end the journey with the rapture ending. This is the first mention of primordial vessel in the book, and throughout the rest of the book there is no mention of how or where to find it. Primordial vessel is a heavy ancestral relic, older than vessels. This archaic recipient is a testament to a forgotten era. A faint breathing can be heard from within. This symbol appears next to primordial vessel. The hand can carry the primordial vessel on its back wherever it goes. Carrying it will drastically affect the hand's mobility. The primordial vessel is an extremely fragile object. It will shatter with a single hit. It can be coated in resin with the help of Ancestor to prevent it from breaking. Gestation chamber is an immense biomachine used for the expansion of Obek and the creation of exceptional vessels. This chamber is the only one remaining from the 5 original ones that towered around Obek. The area where gestation chamber rests can be reached by using 014 to break through one of the clogged residual pipes near nest of wires. A metallic rattle can be heard echoing from far away. The sound becomes clearer as the hand approaches the great structure. The insides of the biomachine can be accessed by a locked gate in one of its sides. A singular vessel can be found floating in silence. Unborn does not attack nor communicate with the hand. If the hand leaves the room, the vessel will disappear. If Unborn is destroyed, a set of limbs, AP 228, an M411, and a corrupted mem unit can be looted from its corpse. These 2 limbs are 2 of the pieces required of the 5. Rare hostile vessels that patrol restricted areas of high importance. Ripper is strong, agile, and resistant. It was previously used as a security measure. Unlike most other vessels, Ripper was created manually after the fall of Obek, with the intention of finding the traitors to the artificial god and prevent further attacks. Tiny, elusive automatons and bearers of valuables, Agate B is a moving container commonly found throughout the world. It runs away from the hand at first sight. Items and bile can be looted from Agate B once it is destroyed. Hidden inside Tomb, a secret area accessible from outer crust, a large ancient monument can be found. This structure has a small cavity in which the primordial vessel can be placed. Placing the primordial vessel in the cavity will cause the monument to collapse into dust, unveiling a hidden passage, Great Hole. Doing this will also destroy the primordial vessel. A muffled murmur can be heard coming from within. Great Hole is a network of tunnels that branch into dead ends and collapsing floors. Some of the chambers found here have abnormally large living organs: eyeball, tongue, lung, and pancreas. Following the murmurs will lead the hand to a room with the remains of a rare vessel resting against a wall. As the hand gets closer, a disembodied voice will warn it.
Save your prayers, for she, the ever brighter, has long abandoned us. Her bronze tears poured over us. The grieving for her children sank our world into ruthless darkness. Blinded by our pride, forever condemned, only her mercifulness is what is left.
The hand can take Diopedes from the remains. It is a unique weapon of daunting destruction, capable of vanishing anyone who opposes its bearer. But it is gone after a single use. Diopedes was left behind by a mother of light, whose last wish was to free her children from the eternal torment of mankind. Diopedes comes from the ancient Greek, meaning to fall from heaven. Diopedes is the only weapon capable of killing divine beings. Angels exist in a plane away from all living beings and vessels, but sometimes they cross the veil between realities to visit this world. Even in their tangible form, they are immune to all forms of physical damage. This is the symbol that appears on the page displaying Diopedes. Broadcaster is a non-aggressive vessel of vast knowledge, created for archive maintenance tasks and informative purposes. His duties have long lost their meaning. Broadcaster speaks using poor quality audio recordings from the archive. Broadcaster resides in Radio Tower, a grand building with countless archives left behind, and its only occupant absorbed in an endless mission. Radio Tower is located on Rust Town's outskirts. Radio Tower preserves each significant audio recording in history, digitalized and carefully archived. Radio Tower can be accessed by using a key. Even though Broadcaster was designed purely as an automaton, the exposure to the recordings has dramatically reshaped his body and mind. The hand will acquire the title of Broadcaster by killing him. If this happens, all others will refer to it by this name from now on. This act does not have any other repercussions. This is Broadcaster's speech.
The floor is red, the sky is black. The mother is gone. and so is the sun. My lungs, they burn. The pain, the blood. I saw her again, the girl in my dreams, but this time she was full of joy. Her eyes were dripping sapphire tears, and her skin was casting a gentle glow. What did she say this time? She whispered, "It's over." Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in hilarius, et benedictus, fructus ventris tu. Ora pro nobis. Year 0, VSO broadcaster, about to check data storage. Tower functions, stable. Broadcasting, stable. Storage, error, full. Please empty the storage device. Am I condemned to forever remember these borrowed memories? These walls are my sanctuary, my prison. I lived surrounded by ghosts, memories of every single error and triumph, a better life. I've witnessed desires, fears, loss, and love. I wish I lived and died. But here I remain as a mere spectator, a keeper of the voices. Vessel, will you remember the one who remembers? Perhaps my existence is not worth remembering. For what have I done? Besides thinking what's been thought, walking what's been walked, I don't have control. The first ever noiseless, completely silent drape runners. Keep your curtains quiet.
Here we get a small digression on mind units. All the speeches from mind units thus far have been of note, and this feels like even more of a push by the author for us to pursue research into these monologues. It is written that mind units often offer a glimpse into the past, important hints or forgotten thoughts. Long ago, mind units were commonly used as information storage devices. Any lived moments or thoughts could be instantly captured by a mind cell and turned into a physical unit. Mind units played a very important role in information wars. With them, secrets and forbidden data became more easily obtained. Disconnection was often used as a desperate measure to protect one's data. This process corrupted the mind cell, making its units inaccessible. Again, there's a lot to unpack here, and I'll go over it when we talk about the mind units later. Sleepwalker is a unique vessel that dwells in the lower levels of Nest of Waters. Sleepwalker blocks the access to Bima, an area situated beneath Obek. While dormant, Sleepwalker crawls erratically around the room at a slow pace. Sleepwalker lacks any kind of vision, but possesses a very sensitive decibel detector. It will be awakened by the slightest sound. If Sleepwalker wakes up, it will attack the hand with an extremely devastating bite. Sleepwalker can extend its neck in order to quickly bite the hand, even on the run. If the hand throws an item, Sleepwalker will follow its sound. Well of Greed is a blocked well made of primal waste located in an isolated room in Bima. When the hand approaches Well of Greed, a black cadaverous claw will emerge from it. This claw is hostile. It will attack anything that gets close enough. The claw will retreat into the well if the hand walks away. Any small vessel companion that comes close to the claw will be dragged down into Well of Greed and be violently devoured.
Regular projectiles and weapons cannot hurt the claw. The hand can throw items into Well of Greed. If an item does not please its prisoner, it will be thrown back out. If the hand unequips all of its pieces, the claw will return into the well, and a pale hand will emerge from it. If a scale is offered to the pale hand, it will clutch it and freeze. The hand can now interact with it to obtain H113. This is another one of the 5 pieces. On the page displaying Well of Greed and the claw is this symbol, which will appear later. A defective birthing tank can be found isolated from the rest in a secret nest in Bhima. In it, the bodies and minds of dozens of unborn vessels have combined together, forming a single organism that eventually bursts out of the pod. Ark is a non-hostile, voracious vessel. It will consume almost anything that is thrown into its maw. Ark will give nothing in exchange. If Ark is attacked or fed something harmful, it will become aggressive and will try to assimilate the hand. Ark explodes into a huge burst of white bile upon its destruction. The umbilical whip 038 can be looted from its corpse. The umbilical whip is a middle-range weapon capable of regenerating biomass by mere touch. It can be used on the hand. If the hand feeds lastborn Cassiel slumber to Ark, it will evolve into a new elevated being, ending the journey in purity. I don't know why, but Cassiel Reborn has given me the craziest goosebumps since that one Gandalf scene. And I'm not quite sure why, but it's certainly one wicked design. Next to Cassiel Reborn, we have this same symbol that appears earlier at the Well of Greed. How dare you taint the holiness of flesh? Curse the twisted that defile the gift of life. Mankind's illness has birthed a revolting fate. Now the illness is all that remains, for man is no more. Do not feel shame, vessel, for you are but a child of sin. Your impurity was inherited. As an act of mercy, I shall burn this rotten world. Transposition is a process by which it is possible to create divine life. If the hand places lastborn Cassiel's slumber in the primordial vessel and then pours the red communion into it, the form of the primordial vessel will change dramatically, and it will conceive a new life, the red egg. If the red communion is poured while the primordial vessel is empty, it will engender the black egg. Once the soul transposition has been performed, the primordial vessel will transmute into the red egg, and it will be possible to save it in the storage by interacting with it. The red egg pulsates whenever a motherly presence is nearby. The red egg can be offered to M03. It will hatch after 3 full cycles in his care. What remains of M03 after the hatching can be found alongside the newborn. Life Giver 033 can be looted from his corpse. The next couple pages are dedicated to MOPOS, which stands for Motorized Organic Persecutor for Optimal Security. MOPOS are automatic flying devices that follow or attach to the hand. MOPOS have an integrated life system of 3 blood bulbs. The hand can extract its own blood bulbs to refill these ones. Most MOPOS are designed for combat and possess some kind of weapon: laser, bullet, missile, enemy chaser, or bomb. But some of them focus on storage management, item collection, or enemy detection, such as radar. MOPOS can be categorized as follows: old, lost technology; new, built from scraps; and alive, parasitic organisms. There are 2 alive MOPOS that Plastiboo goes on to explain. The first of these is Commander. While connected to the hand, Commander jumps to the nearest enemy within range and starts nibbling on it, hurting the enemy and healing the hand. Commander inverts the hand's controls and drinks from the hand's blood bulbs to heal itself whenever it pleases. The second is Wab B. Once attached to the hand, Wab B multiplies the damage done by the hand's weapons and merges its life system with the hand's as a shield. Wab B tries to gain control over the hand's body sporadically. Its attempts become more aggressive as time goes by. Discarding a non-living Mopos will cause it to fall on the ground. If a living Mopos is discarded, it will fly away, never to be seen again. Next, we have the page displaying vessel states, and after this, there are only a few zones left to cover. Calcium pipes are the remains of a vast complex of pipelines that transported coolant to Obek. These pipes branch throughout the length and breadth of Bima, connecting directly to Obek's chamber. The never-ending pipes are filled with parasites that feed on the calcium. The hand may leave bioluminescent seeds around the labyrinthine network as markings. Any other items left behind can and probably will be eaten by the scavengers of the pipes. Throughout the tunnels, the hand may encounter smooth conical structures protruding from the floor. These are phalange. These stone-like cones are actually hostile cytine organisms that bury the most vulnerable part of their bodies underground while keeping their osseous armored heads exposed. They are capable of calcifying with their gaze. Upon detecting a nearby presence or the destruction of calcified figures, phalange will go into offensive mode, quickly unburying itself and making its bottom half spin frantically to chase its prey at high speed. Calcified vessels break on contact. They can be used as a shield against phalange's gaze. Next, we have a very important zone. Hideout, Prison of the Innocent, also called the Snake Egg. Hideout is a huge armored complex that can be accessed through a calcified pipe hidden behind several calcium walls that prevent passage. They can be destroyed with a few hits. Hideout is surrounded by a garden of power cables falling from the abyss above and snaking down around the complex. The atmosphere surrounding Hideout is oppressive and dense with polyp, making it difficult for the hand to see and navigate. The thin crust of polyp covering the floor cracks with every step. The location of Hideout is known only to the snakes. It has been obscured from the eyes of the world for centuries. Upon entering Hideout, 4 snakes can be seen kneeling in front of a colossal metal door. Of the 4 snakes, only one has managed to survive the passing of time and the ever-growing rust. The wires connected to her shape will start shaking as the hand approaches. Then she will stand up, ready to defend Hideout until her last breath. The 3rd snake is a fierce vessel, supremely skilled in battle. Her attacks are swift and graceful. She only attacks with a short scythe blade. When defeated, she will drop a scale. If you recall, you need to offer a scale to the claw in Well of Greed to obtain H113. The Great Metal Door will remain firmly sealed for as long as it remains incomplete. To access Hideout, the hand needs to place the iron brick into the chest cavity of the door. The iron brick is obtained by killing and looting the corpse of Sage V2 in Red Dome. Behind the Great Metal Door lies the prayer room, an imposing sight that greets the hand as soon as it enters the complex. A mural surrounded by ashes, covered by red robes, stands in the middle of the chamber. An inscription can be read at the foot of the mural. Let us fill up your wounds with our foul blood. Cleanse your skin with our tears of repentance. Forgive our sins O child of light, for our borrowed flesh was corrupted at birth. The lower levels of hideout, at the bottom of which rests the body of the innocent, can be reached through concrete corridors. We can determine almost certainly that the innocent is the second angel. A moribund snake can be seen in one of the corridors, guarding the entrance to altar. When the snake is approached, she will stand up briefly before collapsing onto the floor. A scale can be acquired by looting her corpse. Upon entering altar, the hand will find itself in a room draped in tattered red cloths that meander up to a small altar surrounded by candelabra. A pale head with childlike features rests on top of it. The hand can approach S466 and collect it. This is the last of the 5 pieces. As the hand wanders through the lower levels of hideout, it may encounter these horrific appendages on several occasions. Prosthetic Claw will try to stop the hand's advance by dropping from the ceiling onto it and dragging it back to the entrance. Prosthetic Claw casts a shadow on the floor as it falls. Noticing it is crucial in order to avoid its attacks. If Prosthetic Claw fails to catch the hand, it will start chasing it until it does so. There are also wicked fingers, disembodied fingers that crawl throughout the lower levels of hideout. These areas are infested with spare body parts discarded by the snakes during the fabrication of the innocent's prosthetic body. Many of these pieces are unidentified bones and flesh. These monstrous remains are capable of spitting small blood projectiles and lashing nearby threats with their veins. On its way to the bottom of hideout, the hand will encounter a multitude of obstacles and a towering figure lurking in the distance that only seems to grow larger as the hand approaches. The behemoth will calcify the hand with his gaze if it enters his field of view. The hand can use the environment to hide from the Titan. On the full-page illustration of the Titan, we again see this same symbol that was on Well of Greed and Cassiel Reborn. The path ends in front of the slumbering beast, a withered colossus kept alive by the snakes, the prosthetic body of the innocent. The second angel was severely injured in the process of extracting him from his pod, so an artificial body was built in order to protect him from the ones who sought to restore the old order. This prosthetic body served as life support for the wounded angel. It is seemingly unnamed, but when describing the phases of the battle with the Titan, it is called the body. The body will attack the hand with everything at his disposal: regular and psychic projectiles, enormous claws, a devastating laser beam, and a tremendous bite that can swallow the hand whole, his most vicious attack. In the second stage, after the body has taken enough damage or has used his laser too many times, his jaws will break and detach from his head. The body will start to crumble and act visibly exhausted. He will only strike physically and let out a shriek that can stun the hand. As the battle continues in the third stage, his skull will crack, his limbs will fall apart, and a halo will form over his head. The body will mainly attack with light projectiles and his now more powerful calcifying gaze. During the third phase, the innocent's prosthetic body can be destroyed right away if Diopedes is used. Regardless of how the body has been defeated, briefly after he collapses, the life support tank will open and the true body of the innocent will emerge. Once out of his cocoon, the innocent will unwrap his wings and take flight, never to be seen again. The hand can attack the innocent before his departure, but this will trigger severe consequences. The apostate will emerge. The apostate is a divine being, but his fatal wounds were never fully healed. The hand can harm the apostate's husk if it manages to survive his vicious attacks long enough. Before succumbing, the apostate will communicate a brief message. Within this message, every symbol, unfortunately, is new and isn't seen anywhere else in the book. After the fight, if Diopedes has not been used against the apostate, the hand will find itself facing the broken being on the ground and can decide whether to end his suffering or carry his body back to Obek and deposit it in the pod. If the hand decides to give him a merciful death, it will usher in a new cycle, epoch. If the hand deposits the apostate back into his pod, the cycle will finally be restored. Wheelwright. The final two endings. I feel that a lot of the weight of lore lies in the speeches given by NPCs, as well as those found in mind units throughout the world. These speeches, as well as the 7 endings, give us large clues as to what's actually going on, though they're all mysterious and hard to decipher, like prophetic visions spoken in verse by an oracle. The first speech we encounter is given by the protagonist.
I am scared. I am too weak. I cannot keep going any longer. I reached my limit long ago. My bones are worn from walking this endless tomb in search of the invisible. Why do I keep getting lost in the nothingness? Time has slipped between my fingers like sand. And yet I am still incomplete. My burden, my last breath, shall be carried by a vessel.
The protagonist is dying, failing in his search for the invisible. The invisible comes up twice more throughout the book. The first beneath Polyp, a world of invisible life, and the second comes up in a speech by GPCH, where he states he wants to access the invisible world. I honestly don't know what to make of this. If we assume the invisible refers to Polyp, what does he mean he wants access? And why is the protagonist searching for Polyp? My only theory is that the protagonist is actually searching for oxygen, which long ago was slowly infested by Polyp, and the protagonist, being the only humanoid character, is trying to find oxygen for human life to prosper again. This theory could also be reinforced by his next statement, that he is incomplete. He is incomplete without oxygen because he is human, and he needs it to live. If we keep running with this theory, then we notice that in GPCH's speech, he's talking about iron and wires, flesh and blood, mothers and machines, differentiating machines from humans. Maybe the invisible world is that previous human world he wants to experience. This is all just a theory, and there's nothing really conclusive enough, I think, to verify it. The protagonist's last line, that his burden shall be carried by a vessel, is also something to think about. Is he reincarnated as the hand, or how will the hand continue his mission? A vessel could be a metaphor for people or things that are receptive to and used by the divine. In the Bible, vessels are described as both holy items and individuals chosen by God to serve his purposes. Is the hand serving the purposes of the protagonist? And if so, that makes the protagonist somewhat of a god, like Obek. There's so many questions and so few answers.
In the kingdom above, wrapped in robes of vacuous knowledge, the snake hides in plain sight.
This one immediately brought to mind
the story of Milton's Paradise Lost, the biblical story of the fall of man, and Lucifer's rebellion of God, leading to his banishment to hell and his becoming Satan. If the second angel is a proxy for Satan, it would make perfect sense. In the story of the fall of man, Lucifer was also the one who enters the body of a snake to disguise himself and tempt Eve to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, the original sin. Thus the snake hides in plain sight. Throughout the book, we also come to the realization that the snakes are the ones who are rebelling against Obek, the artificial god, just as Lucifer rebelled against God in biblical tradition.
Progress is what we call this ever-growing curse upon our kin. We lost our flesh, then our thoughts, and now our souls are rotting away inside these shells. We stole the divine beings and called it a gift from heaven. Centuries of evolution feasting upon our abominable acts. We must force the birth of a new era. The salvation of this world can only be achieved by redemption. Free the innocents. Death to Obek.
The divine beings, which I assume are the angels, are referred to as the innocents, and they were somehow stolen from heaven. This mind unit being information that's championing the cause of the snakes, it is most likely forbidden knowledge, knowledge that is hunted down and destroyed by Sabbath Gog. The first couple lines also illuminate a lot. My understanding of it is that progress is what led to the machine god Obek. Humanity, through progress, advanced so much that they lost their flesh and their thoughts became transferable through mind units, and thus a currency. Then they also lost their souls, which are trapped in these vessels created by Obek. And this progress was also possibly facilitated by Polyp. As humans couldn't survive in the toxic air, they were forced to become more machine than human.
I've noticed that red bile has special properties unique to it. By filling your bile valve with red bile, or a mix of red bile and white bile, you can slightly tweak your body's performance. Red bile, unlike us, those nasty things from outer crust, can distill their own fuel. We will probably run out of it at some point. And they will take over our land and feast on our living carcasses. What a sick joke.
Another biblical reference. I considered any implications that might be derived from this being Eve, the first woman, but I couldn't find anything super explicit. If I were to hyperanalyze, I could draw some connections, but they all feel like a bit of a stretch. Both characters with the namesakes of the first man and woman, Adam and Eve, don't have any real conclusive connections to the larger lore of the world of Godhusk. And at least if they do, I believe it's extremely subtle.
I saw what the little creatures do. They create life from nothing, without any command or birthing tank. Do birthing tanks feel love when they give birth to us? Do they feel proud when they see us grow? I surely do. Behold, I made these vessels out of scraps and gave them a part of myself. I am now a life giver, and they, my children. I now understand the creatures. I would give my life for them at any moment too. If you come across any vessel scraps longing for love, bring them to me, and I will give them life.
M03's speech is interesting, but I can't draw any larger implications from it to the lore of Godhusk, other than M03 is yearning to create life, biological life, as humans do, whose children they raise and feel love for and happiness for and give their life for.
Save your prayers, for she, the ever brighter, has long abandoned us. Her bronze tears poured over us. The grieving for her children sank our world into ruthless darkness. Blinded by our pride, forever condemned, only her mercifulness is what is left.
I tried to figure out who the person or thing is in this speech from beyond, but with little success. The ever brighter, whoever she is, has abandoned the vessels due to their pride.
The floor is red, the sky is black, the mother is gone, and so is the sun. My lungs, they burn. The pain, the blood. I saw her again, the girl in my dreams, but this time she was full of joy. Her eyes were dripping sapphire tears, and her skin was casting a gentle glow.
What did she say this time? She whispered, "It's over." Dominus tecum, benedicta tu, in Hilarbius, et benedictus, fructus ventris tu, ora pro nobis.
Year 0, VSO broadcaster, about to check data storage. Tower functions, stable. Broadcasting, stable. Storage, error, full. Please empty the storage device. Am I condemned to forever remember these borrowed memories? These walls are my sanctuary, my prison. I live surrounded by ghosts, memories of every single error and triumph, a better life. I've witnessed desires, fears, loss, and love. I wish I lived and died. But here I remain as a mere spectator, a keeper of the voices. Vessel, will you remember the one who remembers? Perhaps my existence is not worth remembering. For what have I done? Besides thinking what's been thought, walking what's been walked, I don't have control. The first ever noiseless, completely silent drape runners. Keep your curtains quiet.
There is so much to unpack in this, but let's take it line by line. The floor is red, the sky is black, the mother is gone, and so is the sun.
The mother here could be a reference to the ever brighter in the speech from beyond, as it says, the grieving for her children. This seems to imply she is the mother of the vessels, but we don't get any more real information on her. The next few lines are painful screams. Then we get a line about a girl in a dream. At first I thought there was some parallel to the mother or ever brighter, but she shed bronze tears, not sapphire tears. The next line is really interesting though, and finally very explicit.
Dominus tecum benedicta tu in Lerbius et benedictus fructus ventris tu. Ora pro nobis.
This phrase in Latin is part of the Latin verse of the Hail Mary prayer, specifically the greeting from the angel Gabriel to Mary. It translates to, "The Lord is with you. Blessed are you among women, and blessed is the fruit of your womb." The incomplete part, ora pro nobis, means pray for us. Here is the full prayer in Latin and its translation in English. Feel free to pause to read it. The parts that are removed are essentially those that make any explicit reference to Mary or Jesus. The next line is from VSL Broadcaster at 0 year, but it seems the storage is full, despite this being the assumed starting point. I don't really know what to make of this. The last paragraph of text from Broadcaster is a little haunting. He laments the fact that he is a spectator without control or freedom, condemned to remember borrowed memories. But then suddenly he is pulled back from his lucidity and continues on remembering useless memories.
How dare you taint the holiness of flesh? Curse the twisted that defile the gift of life. Mankind's illness has birthed a revolting fate. Now the illness is all that remains, for man is no more. Do not feel shame, vessel, for you are but a child of sin. Your impurity was inherited. As an act of mercy, I shall burn this rotten world.
Now, Cassio's speech is very straightforward. She's speaking in very clear terms how humans created these machines and, in her words, tainted the holiness of flesh and defiled the gift of life. Mankind's illness being, of course, unending technological progress, eventually leading to their demise as humans died off. Cassio leads to the purity ending and seems to be on the side of the snakes, who want a new world order. A fun thing I found, by the way, is that Cassio, if you leave out the I, is an anagram for scales, and the snakes drop scales. It might seem a bit contrived, but I thought I'd mention it. Also, Cassio is the name of an angel, identified as the Archangel of Saturn and the Angel of Solitude and Tears. Let us fill up your wounds with our foul blood. Cleanse your skin with our tears of repentance. Forgive our sins, O child of light, for our borrowed flesh was corrupted at birth. The mural residing in the prayer room of the snakes seems to refer to the second angel, the innocent, here referred to as the child of light. They are tending his wounds after they have removed him from Obek. The endings of Godhusk are somewhat straightforward, but they certainly do hold some material that requires further digging. The wheelwright and epoch endings seem to be the clearest. If you kill the apostate, which, if you remember, requires that you still possess Diopedes, then Obek cannot return, as the angel required to power him is gone. The wheelwright ending, where you spare the angel and return him to his pod, reawakens Obek, continuing the cycle. Thus, wheelwright, a person who makes or repairs wheels, as you repaired the cycle. The husk ending is where you enter one of the pods wearing the pieces of an angel, thus becoming a pseudo-angel to power Obek. It's called husk, I believe, because you possess the husk or the outer covering of an angel. Martyr is a bit more confusing. In the martyr ending, you essentially do the same thing, enter the pod wearing the angel's pieces, reawakening Obek, we assume. But before entering, you drink the red communion. Now here's where we get kind of insane with the lore. You get the red communion by visiting Cardinal Chamber and interacting with the unnamed figure. First, if you meditate alongside him, you get the empty chalice. And second, you fill the empty chalice with the red liquid, turning it into the red communion. Now the red communion has its own ending, but we'll get back to that. Here's my analysis of this whole zone of Godhusk. In Cardinal Chamber lies a figure wearing a mask, surrounded by what looks to be a sea of red. Cardinals wear red. Cardinals are senior members of the clergy in the Catholic Church. Now this in itself is not particularly unique, as we're really used to religious associations by this point. But the resting figure in this panel, I believe, is connected to Jesus. The Holy Communion, also known as the Eucharist or Lord's Supper, is a central Christian rite where believers partake of bread and wine to remember Jesus' sacrifice on the cross. In communion, the wine signifies the blood of Christ. Christ was a martyr who willingly died for his cause. Now there is some theological debate on whether or not Jesus was a martyr, but I'm not a religious scholar here to debate ecclesiastical minutiae. Suffice it to say that by drinking the red communion, you become a martyr, signifying that you willingly sacrificed yourself to bring back Obek. Pretty wicked stuff. Now we also have the other ending, tied to the red communion. If you drink the red communion while wearing the angel pieces, you get the ectasis ending. Ectasis refers to shedding, so you shed off your old skin and I assume become an angel. This is essentially the same ending as martyr, but instead you choose not to side with Obek. Now there's two endings remaining, and they both have to do with Cassiel. Again, in one you side with Obek, and the other you side with the snakes. In the rapture ending, you raise Cassiel by placing her in living whole and giving her a total of 15 tears. Tears are secreted by organisms and vessels that can feel emotion and are said to be rare, but we're not given direct instructions on how to find them. After raising Cassiel, the hand can place her in the pod leading to the rapture ending. If you instead feed Cassiel to Ark, Cassiel reborn is awakened, and she, in her words, burns this rotten world, the artificial world of Obek, and we assume everything begins anew. There's still so many questions that Godhusk poses that I haven't been able to dig into. One of the largest being the meaning behind the message left by the apostate. All these questions that remain, however, don't detract from Plastiboo's work, but add to it. The allure of the unknown, providing ever greater depths to discover. If you're interested, I highly recommend purchasing Godhusk and checking it out for yourself. I'll leave a link down below. And finally, thank you for watching. This project was my longest yet, and I faced quite a few challenges in making it, but I also learned a lot. I have many more projects lined up in the future, so if you enjoyed this video, please drop a like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Until next time.